Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Wait. R.I.P. Sam and Dean.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
Carry on. Then everything that happened last episode, but
Yeah. The then was basically just last episode.
okay.
Whew.
Now.
Oh, we should mention we watched the pilot
Yes.
tonight.
Good decision.
Very good decision because there were references.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Wait. I'm plugged in, but I'm not charging.
Could just be my janky charger.
Okay.
Unplug it, turn it around, plug it back in. Assessment. We'll be right back after these messages.
It's still nothing, but I'm fine. I'm at 22%.
Fine.
Just that. Do that. Okay.
Oh.
So now, alarm clock goes off.
They're going through their routine, doing their thing.
Dean adopted Miracle, the dog. Aww.
We don't know how long it's been, but they're just living like they were before, but just with very few cares. They're hanging out. They're enjoying life at the bunker, having breakfast. They adopted Miracle, and
A little shirtless Sam action for the ladies. But I was distracted by the fact that he had his hair in the towel turban, like a post-shower towel turban. That was just like, oh, that's weird.
Well,
So that's what I was focused on and not the shirtless part.
gotcha. It's not a girl thing. It's a long hair thing, I guess.
Yeah, but still, that
Kind of a
distracted
girl.
me.
Kind of a girl thing.
All right. So they still live together at the bunker while Old Mary Life plays.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird because, they're brothers, but whatever.
But, clearly they don't have aspirations. They're just kind of like, I guess we're supposed to us now.
Yeah. I do wonder what happened with Eileen. We'll get there.
I wonder what happened with a lot of people. Like, there's no references to...
There's one. We'll get there. But there's no... I'm sorry, I cut you off.
The other hunters to Otherworld Bobby. All the people that theoretically were brought back, but weren't mentioned last episode, weren't mentioned this episode. Like, Jack restored humanity. But aside from 2, there's no references to their group from before.
So,
like Eileen.
right. So they do their thing, their morning thing. They get on their computers. Sam like, no, nothing weird's going on. Dean, I got something. And he looks all serious.
And they pack up and off they go. Off to another big hunt.
It's a pie fest.
It's a pie fest. Because of course it is. Dean finally got his pie.
This is my destiny. Which is interesting because you see in panning over a family walking.
Yep. No, he almost runs into somebody while he's carrying his pie. Hey, whoa, watch it.
No, it wasn't even them. That you saw that the family walking by, and then he almost runs into somebody else.
Oh, somebody else. Okay.
He's got this big box of multiple pies. Dean accuses Sam of having the sad Sam face. What's going on? No, I just miss Cass and Jack. So no word. We don't know how long it's been. Dean convinces Sam to take a piece of pie. And what does Sam do? Pie smash in the face.
Pie smash in the face.
I've wanted to do that for so long, is what he says.
Yep. So many pie references throughout the show. Dean finally gets his pie, and Sam finally gets to smash it in his face. Delightful.
So suddenly, we have the purge happening with that family that we saw walking in the Pie Fest.
Yeah. Happily living at home. Not a care in the world. They've been at the Pie Fest. It was a good day.
It was a good day.
And there's a knock at the door. Huh, it's a little late. Let's check on that.
Probably just kids, because there's no one there. Laid through the chest to good old Lyle.
Yeah. So easy to see it coming. The way they framed that shot, it was a classic. Oh, there's nobody there. Boom! Blade through the chest. Wife is horrified. Tells
Sends her
kids,
2 young
run.
boys.
That's interesting.
I think I even said it, and I don't know that you heard it, but it was like Sam and Dean.
Sure. It was very similar to Sam and Dean's origins in that way.
So, obviously Sam and Dean hear about it. They roll up in their FBI gear.
Classic.
Introduce themselves as Singer and Kripke.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful.
So they get some info from the officer on the scene. Turns out the mom is still alive. She just had her tongue ripped out. And she had drawn a picture of the masks of what these assailants were wearing.
Which were like clown masks.
Yeah, and Dina's like, I've seen this before. Or Sam, one of them said, I've seen this before. And the other one's like, yeah, I know. So they go back in there looking through their dad's journal.
Big callback.
Big callback. Like, when was the last time the journal was ever referenced? Can't even remember what season. But it
3, maybe as late as 4.
It fell off big time.
I mean, it became a bit irrelevant.
So their dad invested a similar case. People drained, tongues ripped out, wearing clown masks. So Sam and Dean are basically vigilantes now. Haven't they always been?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, there's a whole Men of Letters thing, but whatever. That was such a weird plot line.
Yeah, didn't last long, but it gave him the bunker, so.
So they roll up to the nest because they get a couple of these guys that roll up to a house that they're going to attack next. And
do they find a pattern?
Yeah.
So they
Cut off
figure out who the next target is. They head him off. And
they head him off.
Off their head.
The one, and then the other one, they put a bullet soaked in dead man's blood.
Another great callback.
Yep. Forgot about it, but yeah.
Which is basically a knockout drug for vampires.
Yeah, so they're talking to this vamp, and he's like, we can either cut you off nice and clean and easy, or we can saw with a little blade. And if those kids are dead, because they realize that the kids may still be alive. Like,
right,
if the kids are dead, we're going to use a spoon. So...
But it's revealed that vampires kill families and take the kids to raise as their own...
This nest. Yeah. They don't even raise the kids as their own. They slow drain them.
They slow drain. They juice them, yeah.
It's a harvest, is what he called it. So they roll up to the nest, and they're, getting their stuff, and Dina's like, hey, can I use the ninja stars? Dina's like, no. And they're being all bantery and stuff, and you're like, oh, this is the very last episode.
Yep.
What's gonna happen? So it's like Buffy. You get so good at hunting vamps, you get careless.
You get confident, it's just another day.
Yeah, and they don't have plot armor anymore.
They don't have plot armor anymore, which actually was a weird blessing by Chuck. They were never going to die permanently during the show.
Right.
As long as Chuck was writing the books. As long as he was doing his thing.
Which
they
is
were
why
his main characters.
he had to go.
Which is why he had to go. And I don't know that Sam and Dean realized they were being protected by plot armor. But there's a reason they kept coming back. And it's Chuck. It's not Cass. It's not the Angels. It's not anything but Chuck. So here they are on this mission. Just another day. But
you know something's going to happen.
Yeah, you know.
Still wasn't really prepared for it, though. So, we know from Death's book that the end of their story was that they were turned into vamps. So is this it? So they go in, they find the boys, there's 4 vamps, and they're like, all right, run. And they're doing their thing, and that vamp chick from back in the day, Jenny, I think?
I think so.
Is that a Buffy reference? Jenny Calendar?
Stretch.
Okay, fine.
She shows up. She was the vampire that they allowed to live way back when.
Because there's something like she found a nest that was like vegetarian or something, right? But no.
Yeah.
She decided no, and I just called dibs.
Yeah, she shows up. They're like, so what, you're the big bad? They said something like that, right?
You're the big boss.
Big boss is like, I just called dibs. And then her head falls off. Which is what happens when you fuck with the Winchesters.
Yeah, so there's just 2 vampires left. They're battling it out. And you saw the rebar sticking out of the wall.
I focused on it and you knew.
Yeah. It was like one of those, it's in focus and you see Dean kind of coming out from, so he goes and fights, gets pushed into it. Sam hadn't realized what happened.
He cuts off the aggressor's head and he's like, all right, Dean, let's find those kids and get out of here.
He's like, nope.
He says, I'm not going anywhere.
This is holding me together.
Yeah. Basically saying, if you pull me off this rebar, I'll die immediately. Which is a thing.
Yeah. And the thing that really got me going was, Sam was like, I'm going to go call for help. I'm going to go get the kit. And Dean's like, just stay with me. Just stay with me. And Sam knew it at that point.
Yeah.
But he was still in denial. And they have a moment, which I think, if I'm being objective, it went on a little long. Dean's death scene, which is what it was. It was a little long.
But it had to be.
It had to be. It was really well done. He tells Sam, you're stronger than me, always have been. That night that I came for you.
Referring to the pilot.
I must have stood outside your dorm for hours. You wrote Dora, I heard dorm. Doesn't matter, but...
Well, it's funny because we were talking when we were watching the pilot about where is he living, this law student? Does he own a house? Is this an off-site dorm?
Yeah, renting a house. Whatever.
Oh, if it's that, then dorm.
But in Dean's last moments, I need you to tell me it's okay. And Sam obliges.
Which he clearly doesn't want to, but he knows it's what he needs to hear.
And before all that, like, during the speech thing, Sam is like, when it first happens, it's like, we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna fix this, and Dean's like, no, don't bring me back.
Yeah.
We know it never ends well.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, I mean, obviously it's the last episode, so
You
but,
knew anyway.
But just kind of drilling it home that
Dean is done with this.
And don't bring me back. And Sam, I mean, they're both mature enough now that that's not even...
That's not the way they do it anymore. Because he's right. It doesn't end well. They know this. They're not looking to make any deals. They're not looking to stir anything up anymore. They're done with it. They're still hunters as long as they can be, but when it's over, it's over.
Well, and they never say it, and I don't even think they ever really realized it, but fact of the matter is, they know who's in charge now, and they know who's got their back now. So they know there's no way they're ending up in hell. Sure. When their time here is done,
that's a good
they
point.
Don't have anything to fear.
That's a really good point.
There's no unknown.
When you've got that assurance, the
kind of bringing it back to faith in God.
Yeah, interesting. The fight to resist death wanes, I think.
So
we've seen it with the Saints.
Yeah. So there were tears.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's just Sam now. He gives Dean the hunter's funeral, burning the body.
Burning him on the pyre, funeral pyre.
Yep. Sam going through the same motions as the previous day, or who knows how long it's been at that point.
Well, I think in that scene, it was very clearly the next day.
Yeah.
Making breakfast, the toast pops up like it had the previous day. Hot bread. And, the toast pops up and kind of is startled by it. And it's just, it was really well done. It was a really good depiction of the day after a loved one dies, I think.
Yeah.
You're trying to establish that normalcy and everything feels off because you know that it is off.
So Sam goes into Dean's room, sits on the bed. Miracle comes up. I know. Me too.
He's looking at Dean's stuff. He's looking at the beers on the table and the unmade bed and just the way Dean left it without knowing he was going to die. Just this is my room, and it's just I don't know the weird things you think about after somebody passes.
Yeah.
It's a really random thing. I hearkened back to a scene from that fucking movie Kick-Ass, actually. There's, Nick Cage's character, Big Daddy, and then whatever girl. Can't remember her name. They go out on a routine mission.
What was her name?
It was something girl. I can't remember what, though. But he makes her hot cocoa, and they're hanging out, and then a call comes in. They're like, all right, let's go do this, go take care of this. Go out on a routine mission, and Big Daddy gets caught and killed. And she comes back to the base, and she sees that hot cocoa that he had made her. And it's just, that's when it hits her, It's...
Hit Girl.
Hit Girl, thank you. This random thing that they had done, not knowing what was going to happen. Just a normal day. And then after that person dies, you come back and you see that stuff, and it just crushes you. So I think it was a very similar scene with Sam, seeing the unmade bed and the beers on the shelf and just all these things that I'll finish it when I get back. And they just don't come back. And it's just messes you up.
So then Sam hears a vibrating phone, opens a drawer, looks at different phones, Dean's other phone.
Yeah,
his real phone.
Yeah, it's got that label, Dean's other phone. It was just a nice little, tiny little reference because, every time Sam calls Dean and gets a voicemail, this is Dean's other phone. That's the voicemail message. So you finally get that little closure, I guess, to the mystery of Dean's phone. I don't know. It was a nice little reference.
So Sam answers it. Is this Agent Bon Jovi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, another one of those moments where just those tiny little things just hit you differently. Is this Agent Bon Jovi? And Sam's just needs a moment because, Dean always had those singer references.
Singer. So it's some guy, officer, whatever. Or we've got
Officer Donna.
Well, we've got Victims Without Hearts and Donna Halscomb, I think it was. Direct Me to You. Sam's like, I'm on my way. So, to me, that implied that Donna came back.
Mm-hmm. I took it the same way. That's my second reference. I mentioned there were two references to people they had lost, one being Cass and one being Donna. Cass they haven't heard back from. But clearly Donna, that, again, like you said, says to me that Donna did come back.
Right. Well, and they never really brought back Jody.
Yeah. I wish we had gotten something on that.
Jody.
So she was such a big part of it.
But she's with the girls, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think reading between the lines, they're fine.
Yeah. There were so many that I wish I had seen, but we'll get there.
Okay.
We might need to pause for refill.
Okay. It'll be a part 2 then.
Yeah. So Miracle is walking along with Sam, and he's going through the bunker, and it's very well. And I missed even pointing out, like, when he was, before he even got the phone call, he was sitting there in like his zip up hoodie. I think again a callback to first season Sam. He's just sitting there, and he's sitting at the table that they had all carved their names into.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's leaving the bunker, going out the door, and he turns off all the lights, and it's a boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's never coming back to the bunker. Now, my theory was that
Heart's ripped out. It's a
werewolf, and that, so Dean gets essentially taken out by the vampires. Sam is going to get taken out by the werewolves.
Oh my.
But so Miracle is coming along with him, and I'm like, well, the dog is Dean now. I didn't know. I didn't really know how much time was left. I didn't know how weird they were going to go. I didn't know anything, but I'm like, well, there was that episode where Dean became a dog, so sort of.
In actuality, I think that was actually like the half point of the episode, which is why when Dean got skewered, I was like, I mean, there's a lot of episodes left. But then they took so long with the death scene that it was like, okay. So yeah, Sam walking out was pretty much the half point of the episode.
So you think...
Okay, first half was Dean's death. Second half will be Sam's death. Which it was in a way.
Well,
we'll get there.
We'll get there. So, come back from the commercial break, and you see the wrapped up body in the funeral pyre. My very first thought was like, what was that, Sam? But no, it was Dean, and it was now from Dean's perspective, and he is in this beautiful wooded area, and there's a bar, which
of course there is.
That was Dean's thing when he was hiding out in his own body, in his own psyche from Michael.
Right.
He owned a bar.
Shoot, and I made note of the name of the bar, but I didn't write it down.
Hargreaves?
I think so.
Like Jonathan Hargreaves? Like the vampire hunter? Or the Van Helsing, he wasn't the vampire hunter.
He was the other guy.
Yeah, Jonathan Hargreaves.
I'm not convinced it was Hargreaves. We'll look it up for part 2.
So, Dean is in heaven. Think it's heaven. He sees Bobby. Like, what memory is this? I don't... And... Bobby. Idiot. It's not a memory. It's heaven. Last I heard, you were under heaven lockdown. Well, your boy Jack shook things up a bit.
Yep. So, order is essentially restored in the supernatural. Hey. Heaven is heaven again.
It is what it is supposed to be. At least in
the lore of the show.
Yeah. But it works because, within this lore, God is an essence that can go from one being to another.
Right.
So when Jack becomes God, he becomes the God that should be.
Right.
That
yeah.
I can't say is, but
right.
But there is still. He comes up. He is brought up, and brought up for plot, but there's still that kind of worship aspect, right? Like, this is all because of Jack.
Right.
This is all good.
Right.
There's still he's still central to it because it is what it is, It is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And there's an appreciation, there's a love there. And again, that's why I think at the point when Dean was dying, even though he may not even have realized it consciously,
there's a part of him that knew it was going to be okay because
he knows who's in charge.
It wasn't Chuck anymore.
Yeah. So he's having a beer with Bobby, and Bobby's saying, Rufus lives 5 miles down that way. Your parents are up that way.
What do you want to do?
Sees baby. Oh, and they're having a beer, and Dean takes a sip of beer, and Bobby's like, how is that? It's like the first time I drank with my dad.
That good?
No, the beer was terrible. But
it's still the best thing I've ever tasted.
It's interesting that it's with Bobby.
That's a good point. Yeah, that is interesting.
And he says, Dean isn't, you know, he's having his beer with Bobby, and Bobby is like, I don't think he said, so what do you think? But, you know, Dean's sitting there, he's like, it's almost perfect.
It's almost perfect.
And Bobby said, he'll be along. Time is different here. With that, we're going to take a pause. Because
stay tuned for part 2.
Mama needs a refill.
I could call myself daddy, but I do too.